I have experienced bias and I've witnessed bias. I think the best thing that ever happened to me was being born an African American woman. I would never want to be anything else. I think being a woman is a gift. And I think being African American comes along with deeply, deeply embedded gifts also, that get me through times that, might be tough, and remind me to be joyful, every day. My response has not always been what it should have been. I think as we grow as people, we find our voice. We find the ways to speak up by way of actions or words when we're seeing things that aren't quite right. So the first time I actually saw bias and didn't fully understand what it was when I had a young woman that worked in my department and happened to have a conversation with her after hours and found out more about her background. I will not say her name, but she knows who she is. I'm still a very big fan. She was pretty much charged with stocking cabinets. But when you spoke with her, you could tell that there was a lot more there. She was kind enough to share her background. I lobbied to have her work with me so she could spend part of the time stocking cabinets, but she had too much of a brain to just be doing that. When I found out why she was being limited to that role, that is when I first came face to face with bias, because it was a simple response. Well, she's not that great. At the time, I didn't question it verbally, but in my head, I did. And I took actions instead of really confronting the issue. And today, she has just continued to amaze me because she continues to grow and thrive. That person who was deemed not that great by someone who didn't look like her is now phenomenally great, and everyone knows it. Personal bias is more difficult. I think it's easier to defend others or to take actions to defend others than it is sometimes to defend ourselves. So as a child, I remember I didn't define it as low expectations then, but I do define it as that now. Simple things. You would go to talk to someone and they're just like, oh, well, you're really smart. And I started to see that as I got older and into my career and started to wonder, why is there a surprise that that's the case? And it took me reading and learning a lot more about history to understand what was behind that and to also be open-hearted to those people as well, even when it's difficult. I think the second time I remember it clearly was in high school. I was in an advanced English class, and I remember a teacher questioning whether I wrote my own papers. So I didn't know at the time that that was bias. But again, that was low expectations. Bias in the workplace it takes on a different form in these times. It's not like it used to be. So I give credit to a lot of people who came before me who probably dealt with it in much worse ways than I did. But I found the bias comes in ways where, again, your intelligence is questioned. There is shock and surprise that you've achieved certain things or accomplished certain things. There is sometimes a question about, well, this must have happened because. Excuses for why something might have taken place, avoidance of the term, well, smart, capable. And I think it's been more of a disappointment because personally, I had a few white male mentors, and it took me a while to learn as a woman and as an African American, people don't expect you to be that. Women aren't necessarily given permission to be like their fathers or like the men who are their mentors. So again, that's something where you've got to take a step back and find your own voice. Understand what that means. Like really take your own pause. And I think every woman should know it is okay to press pause.